Hello philosophy students. In this video, we'll be discussing the beliefs of the 11th century Hindu guru Ramanuja, who advocated the idea of qualified non-dual Vedanta. This is a part of a series of Hindu reformations that saw competing ideologies in spiritual monism, with Ramanuja being a leading figure. The belief of qualified non-dual Vedanta states that there is duality in unity. One can be part God and part human, which ultimately means one can still retain their individuality while still being part of the eternal Brahman. We are part of something greater, but still maintain our unique characteristics or essences. Whoa. But what does Gangadin think of this? He would say, "Objection, Your Honor! Are all parts the same in essence or attribute, or are they different?" To answer Gangadin's question, we must first consider if all parts are finite, or which means non-eternal, or infinite, eternal, or can both aspects coexist. Now I'll pass it on to my good friend who will examine Gangadin's objections.
First, we begin if all parts are finite and eternal. We as finite beings contribute to a collective whole in the Brahman. However, as finite beings, humans cannot continue to grow in wisdom infinitely. Our lifespans would only accumulate to finite wisdom. Even if we add up all humanity's growth, that wisdom would still be a finite amount. It is not infinite. Finite can never become eternal, thus they cannot coexist. It would make sense then that not all parts are finite and eternal. The next objection Gangadin presents is if the spiritual monist says that all parts are infinite and eternal. But for something to be infinite, it would have to be complete in itself without the need for outside help. The spiritual monists are saying that Brahman needs to be completed, but in order for the Brahman to be infinite, he would already be completed in himself. The last challenge that Gangadin presents is if everything is not the same. Some things are finite, some things are temporal, while other things are infinite and eternal. If some things are finite and temporal, they would need to be brought into being from something that is eternal and infinite, but then you have to get them.
All right, now we will begin our challenge to the skeptic. Namaste, my friend. I come to you with news of wisdom. Have you heard of the Hare Krishna movement?
Yes. I've heard of the ideologies of the movement, and especially the beliefs of the people the movement draws its tenets. Ramanuja.
Ah, the wise Ramanuja. May he be united with the Brahman.
Is he really? He did say there was individuality, even when one reaches unity within the eternal Brahman.
And what of it? Having individuality while still being part of a united whole is a good thing, no?
Not exactly. Philosophically speaking, you would be violating the law of non-contradiction. You cannot have finite beings being part of an eternal being. You would be refuting the very definition of finite and infinite. If we, the finite, make up the Brahman, then the Brahman is not infinite. He is finite, made of finite sums. If Brahman is infinite, he would have no need for us, as he should be complete in himself. To believe that the world and the individual are all part of a whole is to admit that the very God they worship is not a deity. A God who is made up of collective sums of finite beings is neither infinite nor God. The very basis of Ramanuja's argument stems from the belief that all came from an infinite being. If this being is finite, his argument is therefore rendered meaningless. Oh, all right. Okay. To summarize, Ramanuja's claims that the world and the individual is part of a divine, and that the individual maintains their individuality despite being an attribute of God. How this is the case is beyond me. Gangadin responds to this by pointing out the logical flaw of an infinite existence built upon by lesser finite existences. He also points to the problem which arises from an individuality born of a single deity. How does 3.5 fit in section 3 as a whole? This section, 3.5, describes and addresses a major concept presented in section 3. is reality mind dependent? Spiritual monism is often understood as a form of idealist philosophy. This idealism affirms that the world is mind dependent, ultimately spirit or mind. Gang Edin's objection to section 3.5 is an objection to the idealist view presented by Ramanuja and addressed in section 3, which in itself is an objection to the anti realist and spiritual monism argument presented in section 6.
All right, thank you for your time and have a nice day.